Grace to you and peace from God our Father and from the Lord Jesus Christ. Some years ago, when I was at St. Albans in Washington, D.C., it was my turn to preach on the fourth Sunday in Advent, which is typically Mary Sunday. So I decided to go to the National Gallery and research Mary, look at paintings of Mary. Well, all the images at the National Gallery, anyway, of Mary were of white women looking, well, rather docile and, well, as they say, gentle, meek, and mild. But Mary's words in the Magnificat, which is the gospel for the fourth Sunday in Advent, are anything but gentle, meek, and mild. I mean, just the sentence, "and the rich are sent away empty." Well, that's strong. Well, hardly gentle, meek, or mild. I would say bold, fierce, courageous. Well, so it is with many, if not most, of the biblical women. White Western culture has, well, images of femininity which portray women, well, differently, we might say, than as they actually are in the biblical story. Take this Sunday's gospel, for example. The second half of it, that is. It's a powerful story about the Canaanite woman who takes on Jesus. Now, how many biblical characters ever take on Jesus? I mean, how many of us would take on Jesus? But she does. She wants healing for her child, and she will go to any length to make that happen. She is fierce, relentless, courageous, and loving. Jesus, well, on the other hand, is pretty clear with her. He says, actually, I draw the line. You are not among the lost sheep of Israel as a Canaanite woman, and so my ministry is not for you. But she will have none of it. She presses on. And then Jesus says something to her, well, really unusual for Jesus. Jesus says as much to her as, "You are a dog." Wow, that would have stopped me in my tracks right there. But not the Canaanite woman. She presses on still and says to Jesus, well, even the dogs get crumbs from under the table. Finally, Jesus relents and heals her child. And my guess is even Jesus himself learned something from this Canaanite woman. There are other stories of courageous, relentless, fierce, and loving biblical women. Two of my favorites are in Luke's Gospel. One of them is the story of the woman who crashes Simon the Pharisee's dinner party. She is not invited. She is not wanted. She is not even seen by Simon. But she is undeterred. She goes anyway, and she goes right up to the guest of honor and does every unladylike thing, everything a good Pharisee would find appalling. She wipes her hair on Jesus. She cries on him. She touches him, talks to him. She is relentless. She is courageous, fierce, and she is very loving. Well, then there's also in Luke's Gospel the story of the woman who wants justice, and she goes to the judge, and She just keeps at it. She is relentless and fierce. And, well, she's called importune by some, but whatever you call her, she was going to get what she wanted, and justice was what she wanted. Ultimately, the judge relents, not because he thinks her cause is just, but because he's tired. He's been worn out by her. There are 3 contemporary women who are just as fierce, relentless, courageous, and loving. Each of them is a priest in the Episcopal Church. Each of them is a woman of color. Each of them has a very important vocation in the Episcopal Church. One is a vicar at Trinity Wall Street. One works for the presiding bishop, and one is the canon theologian at the National Cathedral. They wrote a letter on the 4th of July to the Episcopal Church. The letter is titled, Speaking of Freedom. It is powerful. It is fierce. It is courageous. And ultimately, it is a loving letter. Their letter challenges the Episcopal Church, challenges its past and present, rooted in white supremacy. They write from, well, what we've all seen, the ravaging of black and brown communities by COVID-19, the brutal treatment of black and brown people by law enforcement, and much more. These 3 women write this: we must tell the truth of our story as the church of wealthy slaveholders and traders. We must speak of Episcopalians who were personally responsible for the forced migration and extermination of native peoples. Steeped as it is in white supremacy, our denomination must model transformative letting go and decide whether it's going to be white, that is, allied with oppression, or be church. Jesus made his choice. In his crucifixion, he let go of anything that set him apart from the crucified classes of people of his day. Well, I just want to say, wow, what courage, what clarity. They are speaking the truth and speaking it in love. And for sure, it's a challenge to us. We who are mostly white and privileged by that system, they challenge us. What are we going to do? How are we going to be in an unjust society and church? Jewish theologian Martin Buber once wrote, "A prophet knows what time it is." These 3 women are prophets. They are speaking the truth at the right time. Now, you may ask, where is the gospel, the good news in all of this? I believe it is in the passionate hope that is at the heart, the root of their letter. They say, we believe that with God's help, the Episcopal Church can become an instrument not of oppression, but of God's peace. It can grow followers of Jesus who are more concerned about taking up the cross of our crucified Lord than they are about maintaining the control and privilege of a crucifying culture. So, how will we respond at St. Peter's? Amen.